folks. GM. I already see us. Here we go. All right. Let me share out the link. Bear with us for a second, folks. We're going to start promoting this. Let's see. Bear with us. Okay. We're posting this. All right. You can repost this. And then I'm going to say, hey, folks, today we have, bear with us. We're just sharing out the link, and then we'll get started in just a few. Rails and their awesome work bringing TradFi.
This is why you edit it, huh?
What?
What is that?
This is why you edit it, huh? Because the first few minutes.
Yeah. First few minutes is just a bit of promo because you got to get it's the nuance with live stream and podcast, right? Yeah. Okay. So we're good to go here. Live stream is only good if people are actually tuning in. All right. Let me throw this in a couple groups with friends. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Start getting the distribution up. Bear with us, folks. All right. We're almost there. All right. I think I'm good to go on my side. You good to go?
Yes.
All right. Let me get to the right screen. All right. Welcome, everyone. How are we doing today? How you doing, Paulina? How you doing, Tom?
Doing well. Friday.
It's
Friday.
It's a long week.
I'm excited. Long week. But this will be a fun one. So for anyone tuning in right now or anyone following up on the podcast when we publish this later, this is Chain Reactions, one time a week where Paulina and I talk with awesome people from around the crypto space, founders, CMOs, heads of marketing, and just great people all around, talk about their projects, what they're working on. Really excited today. We have Tom on today, CMO at Rayls. They're doing some awesome stuff and all around bringing, I guess, TradFi on chain, if that's the easiest way to put it. But I don't want to say your thunder, Tom. So welcome. We'd love to have you introduce yourself. Let the folks know who you are and what you're up to, and then we can get into it from there.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for the warm intro. Happy to be surrounded by some esteemed marketers. I was going through the other podcasts earlier. You got some names there, so I'm happy to be amongst them. But yeah, I'm the CMO for Rayls. We're going through a very exciting time at the moment. So hopefully some of the people seeing this will have seen a bit more of us cropping up across social and IRL. But we can talk about that a little later because I think you're going to ask me a couple of specific questions about those.
Yes.
Exactly. But so the way we love to always do it, Tom, is we love to, learn a bit more about the person behind the project, right? So we'd love to have you kind of tell us a bit more about yourself and more your journey, right? Like what did your career look like? How did you even get to crypto in general and then Rails specifically? Let's start there.
Nice. So I think my story starts a little bit before my experience with Web3. I spent 5 years at Red Bull, which was probably kind of the most formative experience outside of Web3 of my career. I was working in international headquarters on the brand team. And I mean, this stuff is super applicable to what we do in Web3 because we are terrible at messaging. We're terrible at targeting, and we always move our positioning, and it's so bad for trust and conversion. And we wonder why these kind of short-term approaches to campaigns don't work. And it all boils down to bad kind of brand strategy at the beginning. So I like to think I still use some of what I learned there in Web3. But around 2017, I was a bit active in a few crypto communities, jumping on board, in fact, aping into some kind of ICOs in 2017, which was super fun, probably not very educational because I didn't know what I was doing, but kind of showed me the way. At that stage, I was working in tech startups. And it took me a while to find the right opportunity to move into Web3, but I could see loads of VC money moving from tech startup into blockchain. And so I wanted to attach myself to that budget, to that growth, and to that kind of learning. So in 2021, I joined Crypto VC. My job was mostly incubating the portfolio projects. So in 2021, the hype cycle was pretty much NFT marketplaces, play to earn games in digital fashion, just different iterations of the same, trying to reskin the same tokenomics in a different way with a different brand on top.
I remember those days. It was a crazy time.
It was
how lofty our goals were.
Yeah, I couldn't really see the wood for the trees back then, but looking back, I can rationalize what was happening. But at the moment, I didn't have the wisdom to understand. But pretty much it was the same kind of cookie cutter approach to early stage projects. Technically very sound founders, probably an okay use case, but lacking this kind of commercial acumen for marketing and BD. So that's pretty much where I jumped in, developing a brand, growing a community, and kind of preparing the projects for kind of token or NFT product launches, etc. Working for a VC was super fun because they wanted to ship it, they wanted to create that revenue, they wanted to get out. Ultimately, not the best driver of long-term growth or long-term successful projects. So I was quite happy to move on after that. After that, I was in Bitcoin mining as a service. This was pretty fun because we were trying to make Bitcoin mining accessible to Web2 investors, kind of obfuscate the experience. So give them kind of the exposure to the rewards, but kind of minimize the risks for them.
It's like early DATs before DATs took off almost, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same kind of thing that we struggle with is what's the right level of obfuscation for the tech across Web3. And that was a good example of that. And then after that, I moved to on-off ramps, which, interesting business, massive volumes, not really being able to make much profit with those. So I was very interested when the Rails guys came knocking. I think as you've experienced, the Rails leadership team is super persuasive and very passionate. And so it didn't take me very long to jump on board the Rails train. And then I'm here, really. I've been here since April, I think, just at a time where we're really trying to gear up, grow the brand, grow the community, and also grow the commercial side of the business, bringing partners on chain, and big commercial partners that will see us growing through 2026. So it's been super exciting, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm a bit tired.
I mean, you have TG coming up, right? You have the commercial side of things, like making the business work. I can only imagine. But to just kind of back up a bit, and for those who maybe don't know Rails, although you guys are all over the place now, I feel like, in 1 minute or less, like, what are you doing? What is Rails doing? And what is the problem that you're solving?
Mm-hmm. So we position ourselves as the blockchain for banks, but in terms of the product, what it means is we're an architecture that connects private permission chains with a connection to public DeFi. So the private side gives banks and institutions the control and governance, which is completely essential for them, but with access to the public DeFi. This gives them access to innovation and also demand for the RWA products that they're serving. So it's something that lots of people have tried to solve, but in different ways, but in ways that make compromises that mean it doesn't work for the institutions. Without the institutions, you don't have that liquidity and you don't have that user base to make it work. So the reason it works is for banks, they can offer their customers DeFi products and services and then take a spread on that. But far bigger is they can tokenize their receivables. And so they're essentially unlocking liquidity that's on their balance sheet. So for the bank customers, it means they can have the option to engage with DeFi products natively within their own app. And then the thing I think which sometimes we don't explain as well as we should is that for DeFi users, we're bringing more liquidity on chain. We're bringing more options, more pools, deeper pools, more competition between protocols or incentives and fees, reduce slippage, all of those things that come from growing the ecosystem. And we're bringing this liquidity on chain as users on chain, but separately. So you don't really have to worry about, like, your grandmother isn't going to be entering meme competitions on crypto Twitter, but her liquidity, her custom can still benefit the DeFi ecosystem. I think that's the nice part, and something which I think we don't necessarily translate so well at the moment. A lot of DeFi users are like, but this is an institutional product. But the bigger vision is we're actually growing the whole DeFi ecosystem.
allowing
Yeah, I
anyone to
think
access. Yeah.
when I was doing the research, sort of, and it also felt very institutional to me. You know, your tagline is sort of bringing banks on chain, bringing $100 trillion on chain, and not so much the consumer part. So, if you were to speak now about Rails, how, like, you know, consumers, base consumers can use it versus what you see it like in, you know, a year, 5 years, how does the experience change, or what are you like working towards?
Interesting. I think the challenge that we spending a lot of time on with our content is making sure that in the right places we're talking to the right audiences. We will always have need to bring on more institutional partners and retail partners, because that's just the way we need to grow this. It's not quite a two-sided marketplace, but it's the same mechanics. And so we just need to continue to keep investing in the right messaging, the right channels, and hitting the right USPs. And for example, this is tough. I'm sure when you were doing research on our website, I couldn't tell based on your browsing behavior whether you're institutional or retail crypto. Until you've clicked a few things and you've gone down a little route, I really have no idea who you are. And so we're really trying to balance comms that doesn't, put off either side. And also knowing that websites are more important for an institutional mindset than a retail crypto, because we can do most of our comms on social, in a Discord, or on a forum like this. But that is a challenge. That's one where we need to kind of scale our efforts there and be really smart about it.
Yeah,
I have a following up on that, and sorry to interrupt, right? But I think I want to kind of go back to the idea of like blockchain for banks, right? Because I want to kind of really get into like the points of differentiation, because I feel like, it's something that so many chains have been trying to pursue, right? Like Avalanche, who we've had on, I think it was like a year or two ago, right? Like they have their private subnets, right? And then they're like, use this and we can do this. They're doing some interesting stuff. And Solana has like SPL, so they're able to like kind of create the privacy layer there, right? So everyone's tackling this opportunity in different ways, but I'm curious like how you guys see the solution you're bringing, where like bridging DeFi and like being like very close to the banks and enabling that privacy layer is very important. But the way in which you guys are doing it, like what is the unique,
Sure.
what's so different, I guess? Yeah.
I think the approach that we've made is, we've known from the beginning that the hardest target audience for us to convert is the institutions, and it's taken us many years. And so we've been working with them on a number or we've been working with central banks and regulators on projects and pilots for a very long time. And that's helped us to understand what are the mandated requirements for them to actually bring their customers and bring that liquidity on chain. Whereas I think what some other people have done is they've started building a chain and then trying to sell it to the institutions, which is not really the right approach. And by then there's such a sunk cost involved in the production of that you really need to keep pushing that. But what we've done is we've collaborated with the central banks. We've been working with the Central Bank of Brazil. We're working with the European Commission for the blockchain sandbox. And we've got some other interesting things that we haven't quite announced with some other kind of central banks in Europe as well, which is super exciting. And that means that we're already building something that has product market fit on the institutional side. And we've already created that demand. So obviously the challenge again is always to connect this institutional and the retail side. And the RLS token is a good opportunity for that. So we're actually already creating revenue through some partnerships with institutions. So we've got a proof of usage dashboard, which I'm always trying to push out and make people look at pou.rails.com. And this is showing that on a monthly...
What's the link? I can pull it up right now and screen share. Yeah.
Yes. pou.rails.com, I think.
All right, I got it. Hold on. Here we go. I can screen share while please continue on to the screen share.
Nice. And you can see there that what we're doing is we're collecting, we're being paid by financial institutions in RLS token at an average of around 80,000 per month. It's not loads, and we're looking to scale that, but we've already created demand for the token before the launch, and that's showing we've got that traction with the financial institutions. This is kind of a nice, I mean, it's not the most beautifully designed dashboard, but what it tells you is super valuable. So I'm very bullish on this as a point of evidence, especially considering we're pre-TGE. The fact that we're
Yeah.
revenue positive does put us in a different echelon of kind of projects, which is something that we're pretty happy to do.
You're actually making money. How? What am I?
know.
We don't do that in crypto. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, we're doing it the wrong way.
Normie strategy.
No, it's good. It's good. Okay, but I want to keep pushing it on in on this, right? So I'd love to kind of get a little bit deeper into the marketing efforts, right? Because I think you've been doing some interesting stuff with the cookie campaign and now Republic. Like, how has that been going? I mean, it seems like it's going pretty well, right? But what have the big learnings been? What have the big wins been? And also, we always love to hear, like, not losses, but maybe like lessons learned, right? Like,
there's lots of
yeah.
Sure. So yeah, we did our kind of community and public sale on Republic. This there are lots of other platforms out there that were interesting for us. I was kind of interested in Republic because they've got some Web 2 credibility, and I was hoping they could bring some kind of net new users. In reality, I think most of the people who've invested in that sale are from our own community, maybe 80% or so. So it says something very positive about us being able to engage our community and the fact that they've got conviction in what we've been building. But I probably would have hoped for a bit more, especially on the US side from them. And obviously, on the regulation side, we have to have a different offering for the US to be compliant.
Yep.
But actually, so this has been a bit more of a challenge, but the Reg D process means we've gone through a really high level of due diligence to prove, if you look on the landing page, for example, on the deal, everything there, we've had to validate, verify all of the clients, all of the claims, and cite everything. We actually had a Twitter space last week with Alexis from Yellow, and he was talking about how companies that go through the Reg D process for listing a sale are doing it the right way, because you really have to jump through a lot of hoops. It definitely would have been easier for us to go down a slightly more degen route, and I've got mixed feelings about whether or not we could have or should have done that, or maybe done it in tandem. I think it's quite easy to look back and see, but I think it's an interesting platform. It's definitely been a success for us, but I think maybe it would have been nice to also collaborate with another partner in the Web3 space at the same time.
Yeah,
that would be my learning, I guess. I think there was such a sunk cost of work done to get this up to Reg D standard and get total sign-off. It meant that we couldn't necessarily spend as much time synchronizing with a Web3 kind of more launchpad style.
So you're saying that it would just give you more reach in like more city mindshare, as well as new potential investors and engaged community members, rather than your community mostly.
Exactly. I think it's been, outside of the investment, it's been very beneficial for us to be able to talk about something that gets a lot of engagement and attention and talks to the growth. So it's been useful from that side as well.
Okay. But in terms of, general go-to-market, you said you spent, years talking to institutions and like running pilot programs, and only now you're kind of going all out with community raise, cookie campaign, and everything else. And if I was to sort of back it up, like rewind and try to map it, what did it look like? I saw you guys doing a lot of events, like event after event after event. You're on each and every one. You did the cookie campaign, right? You did. You have some sort of referral affiliate campaign with Fuel, I think, as well, right? There's the community sale on Republic. Am I missing something? You're very active on Spaces. Spaces and live stream seems to be your.
You're doing it right, Tom.
I was like, I hope some of my team are watching this. This is really nice feedback. Thank you. I think
this seems to be your avenue of like communicating, and you're one of the few projects who have community calls quite regularly and founders on all the time, showing their faces and things like that, which I think speaks to the Web2 background, and also going and jumping through all the hoops with RegD, being so transparent with where you are. Um, so how did it look like, timeline wise? How
Sure.
did you map it out?
So I think, classically, we haven't had a workshop sat down and mapped out what the next 5 years looks like for our marketing plan.
Yeah.
But what we have had is some very collaborative discussions with advisors, investors, and the kind of partners that we want to be working with next year, and kind of work back from that. Some feedback we got from people earlier this year was that we were maybe a bit low on mindshare. And so then it was a very easy, quick win for us to rectify that, work with Cookie 3. And now, versus our kind of peer group, we're outperforming them, which is nice. It's a nice tick. And then on the other side, obviously, I wanted to set some quite aggressive KPIs on community growth and engagement. And again, we got feedback from some partners that they want to understand that when we TGE, you're going to bring volumes, you're going to bring new users. They want to see our stats. And so I've been quite transparent about sharing our data on our dashboard with partners, so they can actually see in real time the good and the bad, and get that feedback on what we're doing. And it puts more pressure on us. It means that when we see a dip, we want to rectify it as soon as possible, because we know we're not the only people that can see it. Also, keeping a good amount of engagement is easy to fake for a short amount of time, but actually to achieve it long term, you do need to make sure that you're using different formats. And that's kind of how the space has come around, really. And importantly, as you say, differentiating our leadership team. We've got some great characters, some great speakers, and also very different speakers that speak to very different audiences. So getting them to talk on stage, on spaces, has been super useful, because they all have a different audience that they can engage with. So it's kind of happened organically, but all at the same time. And obviously, with a relatively large community, it's interesting for us to be able to use this Fuel kind of loyalty program, just not so much to, I don't want to be contrived. It's always useful to be able to direct engagement, but from a brand side, it's super exciting if we can use this to educate people about the product, to get them to actually engage, tell us what they didn't understand about the light paper, or ask us if they want a specific blog, or they want to see something in video format because we're just not explaining it. And that's a really nice bit of feedback, a feedback loop that we get from the community, that otherwise those things can kind of get lost in the dark corners of Discord unless you create, a bit of a system for that.
Yeah. And in terms of events, because you guys did so many, and events is a brand play, right? And for you, it seems like KPIs, numbers, like you set some aggressive KPIs. How did events play into this? I'm curious. And I know you guys did a TG soon party bus in Singapore. It's like, did you measure the number of rides, or?
Yeah, so I think, again, it was the same kind of situational kind of report that I did when I started, which was that maybe we weren't getting quite enough awareness, or people didn't really know or care who we were at certain stages. And at these events, if every time you speak to somebody, you have to explain who you are in relation to a competitor in the field, then you've already lost the game. If you're like, we're like this, but we do this, you've already lost. So for us, being able to spend that money to boost that awareness, so that now people come up to us if we're wearing our shirts and they're asking what else we're doing, they know about us. And so the ROI on that is quite clear, but obviously it's a little bit fluffy, a lot of this stuff, but the feeling that we get from it is that it attributes well, there's good ROI, but that also the event season starts and ends incredibly quickly. Like, we're coming to the end of it now, which I think everyone's quite happy about, but there's quite a short window for us to make a big splash. And if I'm going to fly both founders to the other side of the world, I want to make sure that we're squeezing as much value out of it as possible. I want to make sure one of them is speaking every single day. I want to make sure we've got an event that we're hosting or co-hosting every single day. I want to make sure somebody wants our merch somewhere and we give it to them. And it doesn't need to be loads of merch. It doesn't, none of those things. But if somebody wants it, I'd love to give them the merch. There's a real issue, I think. Event merch, the amount of t-shirts and totes, I think the world is done. I think we've got enough. Like, we need more
Too many
totes?
t-shirts.
Yeah.
What
Too
merch
many
did you
totes.
have?
Hmm?
Hats? What merch did you have?
So in Singapore, we had umbrellas, which we had in our vans, and we were just waiting for the monsoon to come. So it was quite fun to actually be enjoying the rain, doing a bit of a rain dance. Then when it came out, we could go outside the main event, hand them out. And I was quite gratified that some people have messaged me afterwards to say, I got home and I've got a Rayls umbrella. I don't know how I got it, but it's there. So it's good. And the rest, obviously, I'm in London, so I'm going to get through those umbrellas one way or another. So there's definitely place for myself.
I imagine you would do something with a train, like a train, as a train, little train toy, something.
We definitely
think about Rails.
We do need to do more train stuff. It's a shame. The problem with train tracks is they don't move, so it's quite hard for an event. But but we will definitely do something. The transport link is important, obviously, because the brand message is that we're connecting things. We're connecting TradFi and DeFi, so vehicles are always good for that kind of metaphor to play with.
True. Because Rails has two completely different audiences, institutions, and then degens potentially. You mentioned something about different messaging on different platforms that for institutions, websites are very important. How do you map out the platforms that you're currently using, or perhaps thinking about them further, of going potentially beyond even crypto Twitter? Because from what I understand also is, as you onboard more banks, you onboard more people who one way or the other will use Rails to use DeFi applications, right? And if you want to grow your sort of mind share in the banking space, Twitter is not the first place that these normie users go to, right?
Mm-hmm. So on the institutional side, the vision is that when we onboard a bank, they will actually serve, probably it'll be white label to be honest, but they'll be serving through Rails some kind of a DeFi pool, let's say, or a DeFi pot within their native banking app. So we don't necessarily need them to experience the brand or engage with us. That's why working with the banks is essentially like a whale strategy in Web3, because that brings us everything else, which is good, because I don't really want to be creating loads of retail TradFi content, because that would be a lot on top.
LinkedIn.
yeah, of course.
Okay, and then for Degen, then for Web3, just focus on Twitter and Discord for community.
Yeah, I mean, those are the main channels, obviously, and obviously we're present on Telegram, and in some markets it's a bit more important for us to be playing there. At the moment, we don't do anything on Reddit, but I see some opportunity there to be playing around. And similarly, we are not doing enough with video, especially short form video. So this is something that we need to crack. But maybe I don't want to spread ourselves too thin in the run up to TGE. It's better to be focused on a few things, and then maybe set some new KPIs specific to those new channels. I think there's more risk of us losing focus at this stage than missing opportunities from not being on every channel.
That's true.
I think it's the right move. Focus, and TG's coming up. I would love to kind of get a bit more, just for general folks listening in, right? What is the value prop for retail? I know it's on the Republic page. I know people can read it, obviously, but would love to hear it straight from you of for retail users, why should they care, right? How do they benefit? What's the value accrual? I'm sure you've talked about this ad nauseum, right? But it's always good to just kind of spell it out in your own words so the folks know.
Well, I think the main thing is that even though we talk a lot about the institutional side, and we talk about TradFi, we talk about banks, what we really mean is we just want it's just a way of us onboarding their liquidity into DeFi. So as a crypto user, what we'll be doing is we're onboarding this liquidity, and essentially TradFi liquidity is 667 times the size of what's currently in DeFi. What we see in DeFi at the moment is protocols fighting over a very defined amount of users having to use different incentives or derive more value from, issuing new tokens or credit cards, things like this. Whereas actually what we're doing is we're growing the ecosystem. And as a DeFi user, if you're interested in engaging with different options or different yields, different vaults, we're bringing on so much liquidity that your options will be so much greater. The best thing for a consumer in any marketplace is choice. So there'll be increased depth of pools, larger transaction sizes will mean reduced fees, less slippage, and then obviously the funds are going to bring new innovation, new competitors, maybe even niche down products that we haven't even thought of that actually have got a slightly different use case. So essentially, we do talk a lot about TradFi. We just need to be better at translating that value to the DeFi. So it's a great question from you, and one that I think we don't answer well enough or often enough. But this is something I want to resolve.
So doubling down on that, right? Like, I think what I'm really hearing from you, it's starting to make sense to me now, right? It's like this narrative of like, yeah, it's TradFi, but it's really, we're bringing in liquidity and then retail users can access it. But what I'm really hearing is like, there will be at some point in the coming months, like there's a desire to build out really like a Rails ecosystem, right? So curious, I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, right? But would love to kind of hear a bit more about like, what's your ideal ecosystem, right? Is it going to be more like partnering up with Aave and getting them to, use Rails, or at least like have a Rails pool? Or is it actually just trying to build your own version of it that Rails could fully own? Or right now we're seeing a lot of, and maybe this wouldn't make sense, but like a lot of neobanks, right? So is it like you launch your own neobank, even though you're getting liquidity from you know what I'm saying? Like there's so many ways to think about it. Yeah.
And I think some of that's coming from ways to increase your business valuation, right? Make it a bit clear and nebulous what your business model is. I think for us, it makes sense to maybe have a slightly hybrid approach. We don't need to be the liquidity provider. That's other people are doing that really well at the moment. If we can onboard them, see what we want to do. But when it comes to kind of building on chain, Q1 is going to be massive for us. Post TGE, we need to really rationalize how we refocus these efforts into mainnet, as well as hopefully next month I'll be talking a lot more about our developer grant program. So we'll be incentivizing people to start building. So this is really going to, there's that classic thing that obviously TGE is really the beginning of the race for us. I really, it's only going to get harder somehow. So, but we're really going to be refocusing on onboarding the builders and this mainnet launch in Q1. So there's a lot, and then, to be honest, there are so many different kind of partners as well that could work on our public chain. We probably just need to be strategic about what makes most sense for our users at which time.
Yeah, figuring out the right ones.
I think you said such a good thing about like TGE is just the start. I think a lot of people like do so much build up until TGE, but the real work really starts after it, when you start to you have to deliver, right?
Don't get me wrong, I want to take time off, but it's going to be intense.
The Christmas holidays, that's the best time. The whole world shuts down. It'll be fun.
I'm curious also, because you've been at Red Bull, you worked for a whole lot of brands within when you were in venture. What were maybe things that you learned that you see are very applicable now in the strategy at Rails? Maybe something that you did at Red Bull, because Red Bull, everyone considers a very big marketing giant in a way, So.
Yeah, I think one thing that definitely I learned and was proven in my time at Red Bull was that a high quality bar and consistency of messaging and visuals really does have compounded impacts. So across the board, there is massive value, especially on social, where only X% are going to see this message. You really need to repeat over and over again in a way that's consistent with the last way they experienced your brand. And I think sometimes we are too busy trying to get attention in Web3 and not actually build on the brand that people are already aware of. I think people are too quick to pivot or do something eye-catching, whereas actually it's better if you can build on the distinctive asset that your brand is already built on. So I would love, one of the drivers for me in terms of brand growth is really doubling down on distinctiveness and consistency of application. And I think this is something we're, as an industry, we're not the best at. A couple of people do.
It's a lot of chasing the next hot meta, right?
Yeah.
The next copy pasta, just very silly things.
I mean, at the same time, social is about like saying the same thing over and over again 1,000 times until the message sticks and your brand sticks. But the nature of social is that it's fragmented and you're, competing with everyone, influencers, I don't know, cooking shows, whatever that is. So not other brands and not, and that's why we're fighting for attention more so than ever, and figuring out what is actually a creative way to say our thing for the 1,000th time in a row and make our brand sticky.
I mean, it's funny to say it, but it is true. We are fighting an attention war with cooking programs, with literally everything. So, it's a hard job.
Next Rails live stream should come from a bullet train. You launch a bullet train content series, London to Paris. You pick up Blake and you just.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a terrible idea. I'm just like
It's really
spitballing
good.
here now. My mind is humming. What you should do, Tom, is like you should go on the tube because you're in London, and then do the man on the street ones. They do it in the New York subway where they have like the microphone. You should just interview. You should do your own interview series just on the tube, just like super cash.
One of the fastest growing podcasts, I think, is called Business Class, and it's basically a podcast in the business class section of the airplane. I think it's a UK
No way.
podcast. Yeah, I mean they did a set, right? But it looks like they're on the plane. It's growing very fast. Or like the chicken soup show on YouTube,
chicken shops.
It's like the interview itself is so awkward and weird, and yet somehow it's so popular.
Weird and awkward. Yeah, perfect.
Dude on the tube, I'm telling you, fits in with the Rails thing,
No, there definitely is something there. There definitely is.
There's more viral marketing moments.
Yeah, creator, in-house creator and stuff. But actually, in terms of like institutional acquisition and stuff, and I'm sure you probably have, it's very hard to get attention of very serious players in this space, right? Let's be honest, banks and stuff like that. So I'm guessing is that the founders at Rails are really convincing, and you just get your way into this institutions and get them in a room with you. But how does one do that? I know how in startups world you can launch some sort of like guerrilla marketing campaign and like send things in their office to get their attention and things like that. But now with like AI and biotech and health tech raising up, and crypto the crypto is dying down, and a lot of people don't consider it as serious anymore because of the stigmas and everything. So how do you get that institutional attention and get them to consider your stuff serious?
Yeah, I'd love to have some super kind of creative tactic, but mostly I think it comes from the connections that the team already have. So I think a bit classically for people in this field of kind of TradFi meets DeFi, some of our leadership team have significant experience with large TradFi businesses. And so having those connections, understanding how it is to work in those organizations, what those people need, are massive. And then if we didn't have that, it would be incredibly hard because they are really gate-kept. They do not trust the kind of content or the kind of business that we are so much. We would have to do like an account-based marketing approach, and I'm glad we don't because it's so labor-intensive. That actually we're just leveraging our connections. But then also, I've got I'm very fortunate that I've got two co-founders, one of which who is TradFi and commercial, and one that is degen and technical. And so it really helps us when it comes to decision making as a business. It means both of our target audiences are being reconciled in every decision. It also means they don't always agree on stuff, which is also very healthy. But then it also means if we are trying to onboard a DeFi protocol, I know who to send. If we're trying to onboard a bank, I know who to send. So it's very clear who they appeal to, what their USPs are, and how they can convert. So it's kind of like we strategically built the leadership team to achieve our goals, but it works quite nicely.
You got the best of both worlds.
Yeah,
Because you
That's
speak
how
the
you get the
language of
magic.
both of your target audiences, right? It's like, no, I'm excited for you to onboard some, so like the popular neobanks and stuff like Revolut. I mean, Revolut it was based out of UK, but I think they moved to Dubai now or something like that. Is that right?
he's
We
definitely.
just camp outside their office,
Yeah, I
build
mean,
some rails.
I'm sure it's still the same, but I think earlier this year they were onboarding more people into crypto than anybody else in the world. So they're a real powerhouse.
Them and Robinhood. Yeah. Which actually kind of brings me to that kind of piques my interest on something else, which is, I think when it comes to the list of like people that you've worked with in the institutions, right? We're talking about central banks, as far as I'm aware, right? Like you guys were helping JP Morgan with their Connexus project, right? Where do neobanks fit into the picture there? Because as far as it's a bit tricky, right? Because like some of them are like everyone needs to partner up because as all these neobanks at some point they're creating like stablecoin accounts, but do they need Rails? Or I guess it just depends on who the player is and just how far along they are, right? And how crypto native.
Exactly. I guess there's neobanks can still be quite a broad range of businesses.
Yeah.
The interesting thing for us is obviously their risk appetite is higher, their need for innovation is higher, and the fact that a lot of these neobanks are more willing to serve crypto natively in their app is already a very positive sign.
Yeah.
So it means that they're definitely closer, and I would imagine a far shorter sales cycle when it comes to onboarding. So they are definitely interesting. And obviously one of the biggest neobanks being based in Brazil is also super, super interesting for us because we've got such strength in LATAM.
Yeah, which then also leads me to a different question is like global expansion plans, right? Like, a lot of Brazil, a lot of LATAM. I think we were talking a lot about Europe, but curious with like, and obviously like full disclosure, like we're helping you guys with some stuff in Asia, right? But like Asia and then Africa, like how do you guys think about the other markets as well? Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So I think at the moment, there's a couple of different ways to do this. I was kind of interested to see how our mindshare compares with other similar projects in the space. But for TGE, being able to attract a retail crypto buyer means targeting the high volume markets, deducting stablecoin volumes from that is an interesting way to go about it. But then more interesting is outside of the token, I wanted to bring on DeFi users who are actually going to stake, engage, and then when we launch mainnet, be able to benefit from the tokenized receivables. So there are a few different things to do there. So we need to make sure that we're targeting, classic high volume markets. So the Koreas, the Turkeys, those kind of markets that maybe we don't naturally have a footprint in, and just do some local campaigns. But then also making sure we're in front of the right people that are engaging with DeFi is something where probably less of a geographical focus, more of a on-chain targeting kind of approach there. So maybe I'd be looking to do some partnerships with some platforms, but then also some on-chain optimized ads rather than just looking purely at geographies. Probably I'd be better off looking at like wallet values and things like that, play around with addressable, that kind of thing.
Addressable's great. We know that team, and I would plus one on that. We actually need to get Asaph on at some point. He's been that's a shout out to you, Asaph. We got to get you on. Anyways,
speaking of addressable, and because it's one of the tools, we mentioned Cookie, we mentioned Fuel. I'm curious, like you pre-TG and later on, what is your like tool stack now? If you were to share some of the,
I think you've pretty much named all of it at the moment. So outside of that tool stack, a lot of our growth is coming from media partnerships with either KOLs or platforms, and making sure that we're promoting the token in the right way on token listing, airdrop platforms, all of those things that we know have got a broad reach. But yeah, I think across the InfoFi side, the loyalty program side, using Cookie as well for analytics to look at the campaigns and the KOLs that we work with. That's kind of that's mostly it. I've got some external support on kind of data science to make sure that the strategy is built off of the right assumptions. We're not based on just guesses, especially when it comes to putting our budget towards certain markets or certain campaigns. But apart from that, that's it. We're trying to keep it quite simple. I've got quite clear KPIs, and until the token's launched, the KPIs are very much based on community engagement, community size, smart followers. Smart followers is the hardest one, I think, to achieve, but something that we're getting closer towards. And then I'm mostly putting our budget only towards things that actually put me directly in that way. Because I think some of the analytics available can be a bit confounding until you can attach it to on-chain data. Because, what does it mean? I mean, even mindshare, to be honest, before you actually convert that mindshare into on-chain activity, it's not worthless, but it's not.
It's kind of worthless.
ROI, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like impressions versus conversions, right? A lot of people can be aware of it, but if they don't actually do the thing you want them to, then what the hell is the point?
Yeah.
Why'd you spend all that money?
But there, your community and your messaging, that's what's important to make it sticky and to make it come across clearly. Because if you get all this volume, but then your branding, it starts from branding. I think design is really, really important with all the amazing projects in the space, that the bar is high. And the messaging and, then the offer, of course, what are they getting by using your product?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
I think we've got a great megaphone and we can shout loud and loads of people will hear us, but I don't know yet what I can, make them do with that reach.
With all that power.
Exactly.
What do I do with that?
Well, I think it'll be once you want to start building an ecosystem. That's what I'm really excited about, right? Like, one does not simply launch an ecosystem, right? It's like having this community already built out, having the liquidity coming in, having the partnerships in place is a very strong narrative that actually, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I think you have a leg up rather than someone who's just like, yeah, we start a blockchain and we're trying to attract developers. Like, with what? Right?
Yeah, and the conviction for a developer to start building is far more effort and work than is required for somebody to buy a token or engage with something. So this is a real test that we can engage them, and also in their trust in the product, which is super important. Which is why everyone's so public facing here, to differentiate ourselves.
I love it. Tom, it's so clear, just like a comment, like it's just so clear even from this conversation that like clearly you know what you're doing, right? Like, which is very refreshing because I've talked to a lot of CMOs and, we work with a lot of different people and, a lot of other people do also know what they're doing, but I think you bring a level of sophistication perhaps, and more of a macro view that is really refreshing, I think, when it comes to actually building this up. So kudos.
Web2 view, no?
What is that?
Cut that bit up. I need that.
Yeah, exactly. We'll put it in the social clip next week. You can send it to your team.
I think we need to move on to the rapid fire.
Oh, yes. We are starting to come up on time, though.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Well, real quick, actually, the last thing we always love to ask is, what's the next big thing for you guys? I think it's self-evident, right? But if letting the folks know, like, it looks like Republic, I think you guys have a couple days left. When exactly is TG? How can people expect to participate? And then even after TG, what's the next thing, right? Should people be looking in the Discord, kind of waiting? Is thinking about ecosystem and building the next big thing? Like, how? Let the folks know. Yeah.
Nice. So, yeah, as you say, the Republic sale is going to end very early Tuesday morning. I'll be glad when that's done. I think it will sell out that 1.7 million probably. Let's see.
Yep.
I'll be happy to celebrate that one. But then I really want to move forwards to TGE. So TGE is definitely going to be in November. interesting timing because of what's happened in the market. So I'm glad to have a bit more space from that.
Yeah.
See what happens to sentiment and general liquidity, just mood. We can use
In my personal opinion, up only. I mean, you see how like just because the guy tweeted something, it goes down, and then he says no, and it goes up. Like,
yeah,
interest rates will cut. It's really hard to say otherwise. But my hot take.
And then after that, so probably just after around TGE is when we're going to be in Buenos Aires for DevConnect. So
yeah,
would love to focus some real builder activities at DevConnect. It's perfect for us, and it's perfect timing. It's the last kind of major-ish event of the year. And then this will be very much connecting to kind of mainnet launch in Q1. I can't be more specific about, well, I don't want to be more specific about Q1, but already that seems quite close to me from where I'm sitting. So there's loads happening. And I think also over the next few weeks, we'll start pushing out a lot of the content, a lot of the partnerships that we've been holding back, waiting, in that run up to TG to make sure we've got that nice cadence of announcements. So I'll be quite glad when we've got through this private sale. It's monopolizing a bit of our voice. And now we can start talking about the other exciting stuff we've been working on.
Yes. I'm pumped. It's coming.
So we should be expecting good merch also on DevConnect.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll be judged.
Well, I am actually ordering some T-shirts for Zebu Live. So after I've just said no more rubbish T-shirts, I really hope they're good. So
all right.
We'll see. I'll share some.
It's the basics.
Yeah.
Share it out in Argentina. I think last year at ECC in Brussels, Pauline and I did because I gathered a lot of merch, and we did like a S tier, A tier, B tier. We did a tier list of merch. So if you have a strong showing, we'll see. Okay, but we should move on to rapid fire because I know Pauline has a hard stop and we don't want to take up too much of your time, Tom. But we'll just kind of go back and forth and but most underrated marketing tactic in crypto right now.
Underrated. I think being humble. I think so many marketers and BDs are maniacs in crypto.
Yeah.
I think just knowing the amount of time that we have to spend together in real life or on calls, just somebody that isn't monopolizing attention, time, and is actually collaborative or helpful. I think that's massively underrated.
I love that.
What's the most overrated one?
Ooh, I think we spoke about it briefly, and I don't want it to be misrepresented, but mindshare without conversion. InfoFi does not solve your problems. It's a tool, not the result. And I think loads of projects use it as a press button, line goes up, success. But none of them, well, not true. Many of them do not connect to any tangible value to the project. And they're not, if you can't use it to promote important milestones that bring the valuable users to the project or make them convert, then it's just a really expensive airdrop.
Yeah. I would, not to get too spicy, but I would point specifically to, I think, like Laudio, they were there was like a 1 week period, I don't even remember, it was like a couple months ago or earlier this year, and it just dominated everything and then just disappeared, right? Because it's like, what's the point? Poof, right?
If you become famous for your mindshare but not your product, you've done it wrong.
Yeah, I still don't really know what they are. So there you go. Okay, next one here. Which crypto brands or projects do you think are really crushing it, aside from your own, of course? Yeah.
This is funny. I think this is a bit basic. Oh, yeah, it's base. Their brand is just so strong. It's ridiculous that they own a blue square. That's their distinctive asset. That is wild to me that somebody can.
It's powerful.
Do that. And within our space, they do own it. And honestly, it's a big punch, and it's one that's landed.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, they've done a good job because, I've been at Basecamp 1. I've witnessed their rise, and we're also like a base company as well, and so we're very much in that eco, and it's it's crazy. Like, and I think part of it comes from like having a charismatic, kind of like you were talking about, like a founder who can really be in the trenches, like that can be a public face, kind of like with you guys, what Marcos and Alex are doing, right? But having Jesse talk about it every day, and to be fair though, they do have the backing of Coinbase, so that helps their case.
Yeah,
but that in itself is not
underdogs.
Yeah, but that in itself doesn't. It's not guaranteed, right? Because there are other exchanges that have launched chains that do not have nearly that amount of, brand equity, I guess.
And also they've differentiated themselves in a really nice long-term brand way, rather than trying to compete just based on, or partnerships, or or some other chains do it differently.
Or just more trade more. They're doing creator economy. They're doing all these other things. Okay, and then last one, Pauline, you want to take it away?
It's your favorite question. Please go.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is my favorite one. I've asked every guest this because this is our third season of the pod. It's evolved over the years, but every guest we've ever had, we've asked this question, which is, looking back at the past year, what's your biggest professional learning as a marketer or crypto marketer, however you want to define it? Yeah.
I guess it's about the importance of shipping and iterating and pivoting quickly. Not just that we need to do things quickly, but I think we overthink and overplan things sometimes. And sometimes when you delay the campaign that you've put out, that strategy might have been farmed to death by the time it comes out. And then equally, those things which you think there's no meta in anymore, there's no alpha to be had from this tactic. If you revisit it a year later, the way these hype cycles work means sometimes the good old things work. So kind of when everyone's zigging, if you zag, that is a pretty good strategy in this place, because everyone is following each other and everyone follows the hype cycle. So there's always a space to be different, I think. And not many people are brave enough to kind of choose it.
Yeah.
Or I think maybe don't.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, they either don't have the strategic mind to do so, and even if they have the strategic mind, I think the other thing that I think you should also consider yourself lucky for, but I think it just speaks to the quality of the team and the project, is like clearly the founders trust you, and clearly you know what you're doing. It's a rare combination. But the unfortunate truth is, in this space, what we see so often from our side, even working with clients or like our members who've come from other companies, right, is there's a lot of really brilliant marketing minds out there, but if the founders don't want to let go of the reins and they can't trust their people to do the work, you're kind of stuck, right?
And
it's also
you're gonna fail.
Yeah. And if you're not quick in Web3, then it just doesn't work. So if you do have those lengthy approval processes, your competitors are going to crush you.
Got to be agile. Yeah.
Gotta ship.
All right. Well, listen, I think that's it. Tom, can you let the folks know where to find you, Rayls, where they should go? And then we'll wrap
Yeah, of course. So on Twitter, we're Rayls Labs. You should be able to find everything there. And then that's it. Use that. That's our hub. Everything on there is worth following. And you'll see that we're probably resharing some content as well from the founders. Alex and Marcus are very fun to engage with as well. So please follow them.
Bravo. All right. Thanks so much, Tom. This is a really fun conversation. Very bullish on Rayls, and excited to see what comes next.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Have a good one. And